Hey, what's going on, my friends? Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Victor, and today I'm going to share with you 4 things I think you should know about the upcoming full moon on May 1st, 2026. Overall, the energy is going to be kind of similar to what you've been experiencing. However, there are a couple, 2 or 3 nice, I'd say bonuses, things that will complement this very fast-paced, forward-moving, passion-filled, fiery, fresh start type of energy you've already been working with. That energy is needed at times, that raw, creative, passionate energy, the motivation to get off your rear and get things done, go, go, go. It's good, it's helpful, it's sort of necessary in this 3D world to, to manifest stuff, to really create things we need to survive and things we want to enjoy in our life. But in and of itself, it can be kind of, I don't want to say irresponsible, but kind of like messy, chaotic, and like one-sided. It's not necessarily the right energy if your goal is balance and peace, harmony. It can create a lot of unrest, a lot of agitation, a lot of imbalance in our lives, though again, we need it. This full moon is going to be bringing with it some elements that'll help kind of balance out this energy and also allow you to access even more of it. So by the end of the full moon, you'll have gone through a bit of a process where by the end of it, you will be heading forward, I would say just as quickly, but in a more balanced way with also less of your own inner resistance. A lot of times going fast towards our goals and dreams, it's exciting, but very scary. It triggers the heck out of the poor inner child who never feels quite ready for these changes. And it can be a lot of emotional upheaval as you're like forging your way into the next chapter of your life. This full moon is going to help you with that. It's going to help you release some of that energy. It's going to help give you opportunities to learn how to go forward quickly but smoothly. Like in archery, they say slow is smooth and smooth is fast. That's kind of like the vibe I'm picking up here with this full moon. So it's a very welcome, very helpful energy. It's going to complement whatever you're already doing. And with that said, let me go ahead now and break it down into the specifics, because there's other things I have not mentioned, including relationships and things of that nature that I will get into more detail with as I get into the video. But welcome to the video, my friends. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Happy to have you all here, and I'll see you inside. Theme number 1, emotional release. On one hand, this might explain some of the inner pressure you may have been feeling. A lot of times prior to a good old-fashioned catharsis, there's just like tension. There's like tension. It reminds me of certain psychedelic substances have this effect on me. One of it in particular is San Pedro. They call it Wachuma. It's this beautiful cactus medicine. And oftentimes when I do it, I will do it in a social setting where everyone's kind of talking, and it's kind of a different way of processing, not so much of a solo medicine like the ayahuascas and things like that. But anyway, usually at least once during this long 16-hour journey, I'll have at least one time where I start to feel very, very introspective, very, very uncomfortable, very, very like, even my stomach will start getting kind of turned into knots, and it's like, fears coming up, energy's coming up, emotions are coming up. I don't understand them. It's just very, very contracted, very, very uncomfortable. And there's usually a bad stomach ache. So it's like, I know what that all means. I've come to learn that means it's time for a process. It's time to go off and be by myself and lay down on a bed and just surrender to what's happening, because the medicine wants to kind of work through me and help me releasing. And this full moon is very similar to that, where preceding a nice release, you might feel that. But take a page out of my book. What I've learned in the past, I would resist what I just spoke of. I thought, oh, I'm having a bad trip. I need to listen to some positive music and psych myself up and pretend it's not happening. And none of that helped until I actually finally just said, okay, this is happening. Doesn't make sense to fight it. And then it's always like, it feels so nice. My wife Pattie says it's like picking a ripe fruit. A lot of times we try to heal and release when it's just not time. And then we wonder, what am I doing wrong? What am I missing? I don't understand it. Maybe I need to investigate it more, go into my past. It's like, no, it's just not time. The fruit's not ripe yet. Right now, your fruit might be ripe. And it won't even take all that much because picking a ripe fruit is almost effortless. Sometimes they just fall from the tree. And you might find yourself, if you can allow yourself to surrender to whatever's happening in your life and just say, okay, I trust, I surrender. Whatever has been troubling you and whatever probably would have troubled you a lot in your outer life is almost through an act of this astrological grace is being literally just lifted, evaporating out of your nervous system where you can be free of it forever. And all you have to do is surrender. And how nice will it be to go towards your goals, to do your thing, whatever it is you're doing or wanting to do or attempting to do or starting to do with a lot less baggage, a lot less resistance, a lot less heaviness, a lot less fear, a lot less doubt. This full moon is here to kind of help you just wash away a lot of that. And number two, I can't for the life of me think of a quick little one-liner to sum it up, so I'll just quickly say it. It has to do with your relationship alignment, meaning you will have clarity about all the different players in your life, and you'll have more clarity in terms of who you want to get closer with and who you might need to set some boundaries and create some distance with. Not everybody needs to be a close, intimate relationship. Not everybody's meant to be a close, intimate relationship. And when you try to make it that way, things can get very messy very quickly. I had a coach, like a psychologist / coach years ago named Doug. And I used to have problems with this, honestly, because I used to bring everybody in. I was always just so giving and so nice. In fact, years ago, I had this assistant. He was my first assistant, and he moved to Las Vegas to work with me. And I treated him like a very close friend. And I thought that was like a nice thing to do. And I wanted to. I liked him. I even had him, he would come over for Christmas dinner with my family. And what I failed to realize is that wasn't a good fit for him. It created a lot of tension and pressure on him. He felt very like being around his like mentor, boss type figure. It was fine for me. I was like the boss. I was the mentor figure. It was super chill. For him, it was extremely uncomfortable, and it brought up a lot of emotion, and it ended up, unfortunately, in a very messy kind of parting of ways where he just sort of left. And I didn't understand it. I was mad at him. Why would he have done such a thing? I was just naive, I suppose. And I learned there, and I was talking it through with my coach, Doug, and he said, Vic, I understand I made the same mistake. Now he has what he calls his fishing buddies. His fishing buddies are people he goes and he goes fishing with. He has maybe a couple of beers with, and they catch fish. They kind of talk about sports. They keep things light. It's fun, it's pleasant, but he's not sharing his last spiritual breakthrough. He's not sharing his deepest, darkest secret or fears with these people. And he's not expecting them to do the same. There's an appropriate distancing. There's an appropriate balancing based upon like the vibrational alignment, you might say. And where you may have spent a decent amount of your life, like maybe like me, like wondering why am I running into these conflicts with my relationships? Well, it's sometimes just a bit of accepting. Again, as I said, not everybody's meant to go real deep with you. And you may have felt for a while like you don't know where you stand within these relationships. People seem to be coming and going and back and forth. You don't know. There might be times of loneliness, wondering if that's going to last forever. And you may have been kind of in the fog, you might say. But this full moon is going to give you a lot more clarity. Because right now, this whole 3-month period, you might say, is about like building a very, very rock solid foundation for the next like 5-10 years of your life, a next long-term chapter. And that includes a relationship, that includes a lot of different things, obviously. And For us to have a rock solid foundation, sometimes it benefits us to have periods where we don't know. Because it is only when we think we know that we pitch our tent and say, that's it. We don't have to think about that anymore because it's figured out. But many times that can be limiting. And it's good sometimes to not know so we can oscillate through many different perspectives and then weigh all the different, all the data that we've received from seeing things in different ways over the last several months maybe. Then we can make a really solid, clear, conscious choice. And this is kind of peaking and culminating right now with this full moon within your relationships. You can expect clarity with these the balancing and harmonizing of all the different types of relationships in your life at this time. Number 3, I wrote down facing your passion. Sometimes, it's funny because you may relate with this. You may have gone through a chunk of your life where you really want to find your purpose. What am I meant to do? I know there's something there. I really want to find it. I get the sense that I'm not going to be whole and complete and like fulfilled until I find it. But you just might not know. You might have a lot of healing to do, a lot of different experiences your soul needs to kind of take you through in order to really get that clarity. And sometimes you get what you wish for and you don't want it. Now you have the clarity, some of you, but it can imply great change that you weren't really considering. Sometimes we don't consider the power, the degree of influence, this awareness of who we are can have on our current life circumstance. I yearned for the longest time to know God's will for me, to know I would call it a life purpose. I want to know my purpose. Finally found it. And then I realized that this purpose has almost nothing at all to do with anything else going on in my life. It will require a complete dismantling of my careers, my identities, my living situation, the relationship dynamics, everything had to kind of go. And when I realized that, I went through a period of resistance. In fact, Joseph Campbell, he's the author of the book, A Hero with 1,000 Faces, where he talks about the hero's journey, which is what all of you have been on, me included. And there's one of the phases of this hero's journey is the refusal of the call. He just straight up says it. You want to know the calling, you go through a lot of healing and experiences, you meet a guide, and eventually, things happen along this hero's journey, and you know what God wants of me. You know what to do. And then once you know, you don't want it because it's too much, too intimidating, too foreign, implies way too much change. So a lot of us go through this refusal of the call, and I did as well. I was no better. In fact, at one point, I literally said to myself, this is the worst thing that ever happened to me, because I felt so conflicted. On one hand, I knew who I was. I knew where I was meant to be. I knew what I was meant to be putting my time and energy into. At the same time, it was so scary and so different. And I also didn't want to grieve. It implied such a degree of change in my life, like I said. So I was living this kind of double life. And what I found though, is that continuing to ignore my calling created more disturbances in my current life and more emptiness inside, more of a real awareness that there is something missing. And I knew what it was, but I was too afraid to explore it. And then I started feeling I felt shameful about that. I know I need to take this leap of faith, and I know I'm not doing it out of fear and clinging to resistance to change. And then I felt real bad about myself. And yet here I am. It didn't last. That doesn't last. That can't last forever, because you're being stretched in two different directions. At some point, you're going to have to let go to something. Question is, what is it? This is your choice. No one's going to make you do it. I see some people ignoring the call to the point where it does go away. And then they're in this sort of life of misalignment. Bound, and the only reason they're bound to it is through fear. And I sympathize. There's no judgment here, because if it weren't for like almost like the force of the universe, I may have done the same thing, because it's not easy. But I can tell you this, thank God, I'm so grateful I chose to listen to my inner truth. Even though it was confusing, even though it scared me at times, my mind and my ego anyway, I listened to it, and it has never disappointed. It has always over-delivered many times over. It has led me to experiences that I would not trade for the world. My life is so much better, and what I'm saying is this full moon is going to be bringing you to that point, perhaps some of you, where you know who you are, and no one's going to do it for you. You have to make the choice. And it doesn't come without, they don't call it a leap of faith for no reason. And I can also tell you this, having done it, it gave me an ability to endure life's chapter turnovers and changes, because I've learned that even when things seem, all over the place, and I feel confused, I don't know what's going on, I don't even know which way is up, I don't even know who I am, there's something inside of me that is always there, always reliable, always guiding me, always looking out for me. And through intuition, through trust, through quite simply just gravitating towards the energy that feels most in alignment, I'm always heading upward, and things are always getting better and better and better and better and better. It's not that you don't know how to navigate this. The former life, even though it's familiar to the mind, it's super dissonant. If you relate to anything I'm saying, this is not you. No good can come from that. It's kind of like you keep trying to perfect the roof on a house with a horrible foundation. No matter how well you get the roof, the foundation is off. It's going to constantly shake. You're going to be constantly redoing the roof, basically. What life is asking you to do right now is to build a new foundation, one where everything will be in alignment as you put the pieces together, and you will have something very solid, very stable, very aligned. And this other path will give you abundance, it'll give you freedom, it'll give you a sense of expansiveness, it'll give you a peace of mind knowing you are where you're meant to be. You'll be like in the flow, in harmony with nature itself. That's what all this is. The only thing stopping you is just the fear and the way the mind doesn't resist change. None of that fear is really warranted. It's not really real. Your mind and your ego and those fears, they work against nature a lot of the time. And I think that's why, look around at humanity. That's the result of letting that part of you that wants to cling run the show. It's okay that it's there. It's when it runs the show where you see wars and absolute unexplainable human suffering and absolute insanity. Your heart knows what's best for you. Your heart is trying to guide you. So that's why I say facing your passion. It takes courage to face your passion, a lot of it. But you have it. You would not have come this far if you weren't ready for it. Give yourself a chance. Give yourself an opportunity to show yourself that you will rise to the occasion. You will oftentimes surprise yourself. This other path has many benefits, many blessings, many hidden attributes you have inside of you that you just don't know about yet, and will only come out when you trust and go for it. I remember the very first time I had a coaching call. I had this intuition. I went through this years ago when it was time for me to start doing one-on-one coaching. And on one hand, the idea resonated, but it also scared me. My mind said, well, you don't know how to coach. You were just a fitness trainer. You don't know the first thing about this and that. Anyways, I trusted it. And I remember when I got on the call with I think my first client, I had this like psychic sense open up right there for the very first time on the call. And in particular, what it was, if you're curious, I noticed that when I was talking to somebody, and that when they were talking about a life struggle or a problem or something, I would have this very, like, I never felt it before, but until this time, this very like specific, unusual feeling in my chest. It was like this stale, smoky fear energy in my chest. It was very unmistakable. And I realized this happens when someone's talking about something that correlates to a very, very deep wound that they're not yet aware of. This is my psychic cue to where I know, oh, there's something there. And I learned how to guide the conversation so where they could become aware of it. But anyway, had I known I could do that, I would have just embraced coaching like it was no big deal. I didn't know I could do that until I did the thing. So my point is, you might feel ill-equipped for this next chapter, but don't underestimate your soul's talent, wisdom, experiences of the many, 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 many lifetimes you've experienced. Only on this higher path will you get to uncover some of these awesome things that are you. And finally, one of the things that'll really help you with everything I said, and also what you've been working with up until now, is this. It's peace and safety in the moment. You may have been trying to create peace and safety for yourself out there. Once this is all sorted out, once the relationships are figured out, once I have clarity about my purpose, once I make the transition, once I have enough money in my bank account, once I get to the new home, the new job, the new car, the new girlfriend, the new whatever, then I can relax. But have you not noticed, as I have, that that day never really comes? I noticed myself a few years ago that I would have like a stipulation like this. When this happens, then I'll relax. And I realized there are three things that I would circle through. One of them is my family. Once I know my family is safe 100%, then I can relax. And then it was once I have enough money to support myself, then I'll relax. And then I realized if those two things there's no excuse to worry about either of those, I'll worry about my health. And I'll start getting paranoid about like dying young or something. And I was like, okay, once I get my health in order, then I can really let go. And then once I get that, then I'd worry about the kids again. And I would like boop, boop, boop over and over and over again. And I realized like I'm never going to get there. It's just like the carrot on the stick. It's always in sight, always very tempting, but you never quite get it. And if you do get it, it's only just for a second until it's off again and you're chasing. So a lot of us, when we go through these transitions, myself included, we're like, man, once this is over, then I can relax. Then I'll get back to my spiritual practice. Then I can start doing yoga again. Then I'll start making more time for myself. Then I'll start making more time for my family, my friends, my health, my hobbies. Once it finally happens. It's like that song, though, from Pink Floyd, Time. I just heard it today when I was working out. Every year is getting shorter. You never seem to find the time. You guys should listen to that song. It's an amazing song. It'll get you thinking about time. This full moon is offering us the wisdom to see through that and to stop waiting to live, to stop waiting to be happy. I was just reading this other book this morning from Yogananda, The Laws of, I don't know, I forgot the name, it's a little book. And he talked about this. He says, you are control. He's a very like motivational type of spiritual teacher, Yogananda. And in the book, he says something like, you are in control of your mind. Just tell your mind, I'm going to be happy now. Just take charge of your mind. I'm going to be happy now. I'm going to look around and realize I'm safe right now. So are you. I mean, how bad can it be if you're watching a YouTube video right now? Could be a lot worse. And an attitude that always helps me is gratitude. In fact, I was just, we finished up a martial arts class last week, and our instructor was talking about, he says, he would say, be grateful you can train. Be grateful you're here. Be grateful you get to train. He was in the military, and he said he has a lot of friends who, suffered very serious injuries, lost limbs, lost parts of their body literally where they can't train. They would do anything to train. And so many of us have a lot more abundance than we would, maybe take the time to really recognize. And what I'm learning all this, this is not something I've mastered, but what I'm learning about life is that there's always going to be change. There's always going to be uncertainty. Safety in the physical world is at best extremely temporary. And we all know that. So even when we have it, there's still an excuse to worry because we're afraid of losing it. So it's folly. It's impossible. And yet we all have this like mode of operation within our psyche and our consciousness to like hone our focus into like the now. And in the now, there can be peace. In the now, when change happens, it's not so daunting. It's always something we can handle. And anyway, I'm just trying to put words to something I suspect you're already realizing yourself. Maybe you've already realized this. And this is really good because when you start getting going on your purpose, which I believe most of you will, with the healing and the clarity and the relationship rearrangement and the facing your calling and taking action and getting some of the inner resistance gone, you're going to find yourself marching forward very quickly towards something very exciting, I believe, for a lot of you. And it's very easy to like be seduced by the future. Can't wait to get where I'm going. It's going to be so amazing. And then we have blinders on. We miss the now. We miss the journey. Don't make that mistake. I made that mistake. When I was building my business, I was so hell-bent on making it that the exact time I finally did, my oldest daughter started kind of pulling away. I thought I had more time. In my head, I had it like, I have these kids for 18 years or so, I didn't know, because it was like my oldest child, that and girls especially, they kind of mature quickly. Once they hit a certain age, they're no longer, the relationship changes quite a bit. And they start taking more time to themselves. And now she's a full-blown teenager with a girlfriend, and she's like, if I'm lucky to if I have a 2-minute conversation with her each day, I feel blessed, and I'm grateful for it. But the time I made it, finally I can relax, and my daughter's growing up. And I realized, man, I was there, but psychologically I wasn't as there as I could have been, and I didn't realize how fast life goes. I didn't realize that once I get something, then something else is leaving. And life is too short to wait for serenity, wait for this overly hyped up moment in the future. Life is happening right now. And this full moon can help you really realize that and really take that all in. And you can still march forward. You can still tackle your dreams. I'm a big believer in all of that. But you'll be able to do it with wisdom. You'll be able to do it without losing yourself in the process. And ironically, because you'll be more neutral and less attached to outcome, you'll probably surprise yourself at how happy and successful and prosperous you can become with this sort of element that is being blessed to us this full moon. So thank you all so much for watching. I wish you an amazing day. Oh, real quick before I go, this coming weekend, my wife Pattie is running a very powerful breathwork ceremony online for free. I went through it just the other week. It was extremely powerful, very similar to what I do. She has her own spin on it. And if you want to be a part of that, it's 100% free. I'll leave a link down below. Just click it, enter your email, and we'll send you the Zoom link and the date and the time. It's next Saturday, though. And yeah, hope to see you there, my friends. And have a good one. Peace.